Hello, viewers, and good evening. This is Culture and Tourism in Africa and the Afro-Caribbean on Cligna TV in Diaspora. My name is H.J. Obamyo, Chief Anchor to this program. Tonight, we have a special guest in our midst by name Otunba, Dr. Wanle Akinboboye. I'll be introducing him later on in the program. You are welcome to Cligna TV. This night, the topic is importance of culture and tourism. Before we go there, I would like to encourage our viewers to subscribe to cligna.com to be able to watch us live. This evening, we have a very important guest in our midst by name Otunba, Dr. Wanle Akinboboye. He's a Nigerian culture and tourism icon who owns the world's first African-themed beach, forest, and river research, popularly known as La Campagne Tropicana Beach Resort. It's a very popular one. In recent times, he has commissioned additional resorts in other destinations, such as in Grand Bassam, Cote d'Ivoire, Olita Sodo in Ethiopia, and Cotton Cafe, Kogi State, Nigeria. He created and produces the popular Mare Festival for Ondo State government. And he's recently an advisor to the African Union Economic, Cultural, and Social Council in Nigeria. Dr. Akinboboye has consulted for several state governments in Nigeria to develop their culture and tourism sectors. He was the Chief Tourism Advisor and Consultant to the Oni of Ife. He's also the Tourism Ambassador for the Conference of World Mayors. Doctor, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you. Good to have me. Good to have you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, sir.
I see we have somebody else joining us, huh?
Yes. And I have also my colleague on set, Franca Idemudia. Franca, you're welcome.
Thank you so much, Professor, and good evening, everyone. Good evening, Otunba.
How are you, Franca? How are you doing?
I'm fine, sir. And you?
I am super duper super. Thank you.
I can see that. So sorry, we're trying to set the stage and all that, and we have data problem there. Sorry for keeping you waiting.
No problem.
Nice.
Okay, now we are about to go into this program proper. Dr. Wanle Akinboboye, I know you are a popular name in the industry. You are not a novice in the industry. Very popular as long as tourism is concerned. Before we go off this evening, I would like you, in your own words, to tell us who is Dr. Wanle Akinboboye.
Okay, it's actually Wanle. It's Wanle Akinboboye. But you gave it a very good try. A lot of people have issues with it. They're used to the Wali of this world, but I'm Wanle. Which means there's a lot of wealth in the house. Okay. Now, I'm a continent builder, and my focus is weaved around three major areas: security, entertainment, and tourism. And we believe strongly that these three things are what we need to explore in the continent of Africa to move the continent forward. We are the second largest continent in the world, and the wealthiest, of course, in terms of mineral resources. And unfortunately, we happen to be the poorest at the same time. 30.2 million square kilometers of area called the continent of Africa, I believe, with 1.2 billion people living in it. There must be a concerted effort to develop the continent, taking advantage of what we have. My focus for the past 40 years is how to create value and to bring for tomorrow's people. So from security to tourism and entertainment. But here we're talking about tourism. Lakampani Tropicana Forest River Beach Resort is the only forest river beach resort in the world that is African themed. And it has a total of about 1,065 acres of land on the Atlantic Ocean. It has the lagoon attraction, it has the river attraction, it has the Atlantic Ocean attraction, it has, of course, the forest with monkeys, with all kinds of wildlife. The entire ecosystem that you expect to get from a village, what we call villages, ecosystem in a village, is what you find, but now presented in a highly cosmopolitan manner. And that basically is what we have to do as Africans. Take whatever our culture is, polish it, and present it to the world, because they're curious. They like to see Africa. When they come to the continent of Africa, they love to see the continent, not a cheap imitation of where they're coming from. What we do is to make sure when they do come, they come to learn, they come to experience what the continent is about, because travel is all about experience, the kind of experience that you get. So let's focus today on tourism, because it's just a lot to cover, because we believe very strongly that tourism is about the only structure or the main industry we as a people can leverage on without differing to the West. Everything you need, if you weave it around your culture, and if you weave it around who you are, is right in front of you. You don't have to go to the USA, you don't have to go anywhere in the world. You build and create your own brand that the entire world can come and experience. That is what we stand for.
Okay, thank you, sir. You just said some. You've even gone ahead of me to say some few things I'm about to bring forward. But I'll still have to ask you before we go further. Looking at Nigeria, looking at the environment where we come from, what is it that inspired you to go into the industry of culture and tourism? What is it that inspired? What is the motivation behind your stride in culture and tourism industry?
Well, the inspiration, like I said earlier, came from continent building. I did my master's in Miami, FIU, hospitality management in 84, 83, before I came back to Nigeria. And when I look at the cultures you get in North America, East, West, diaspora, you find out that they have very limited amount of cultural display. It's basically the same Western presentation. And when you look at the diversity we have in the continent, in Nigeria alone, almost 420 different cultures. There's just so much of that can be injected into tourism delivery. When you inject that into your tourism delivery, you basically will be taking full advantage of your advantage. And the only time you have an advantage and the only time you have an absolute monopoly is when you take advantage of your advantage. So our focus is that Nigeria, as you know it, we are 923, 677,000 square kilometers of area, almost a million. And we are over 200 million people. Domestic tourism is enough to feed Nigerian tourism. But our major undoing is the petroleum that had forced us to jettison every other industry that we are viable at, from agriculture to mining to tourism. So when I came back, my major focus is that how do I refocus us to tourism? How do I refocus us to, tourism is a journey. It never ends. It's a continuous process. It's a process that will be there for years. The first thing you must do in tourism is to first of all define how you want to be defined. You have to determine how you want people to see you. What do you want them to know you for? Ask, what is it about you that is unique to you that will make John Doe from Denver, Colorado, travel across the Atlantic Ocean to see you? So you've got to build that. You've got to create that. You've got to have a destination. And my main focus when I started a few decades, almost 40 years ago, I realized that, yeah, it will take a bit of time, but it's imperative that we weave whatever we're doing as far as tourism is concerned around our culture, around who we are. We have the best of food, we have the best of dance, we have the best of music, movies. You can't think of anything in the tourism ecosystem that is not in Nigeria. From the 853 kilometers of coastline that we have that's still not developed. The entire Dubai has a total of 70 kilometers. Nigeria has 853 kilometers untouched, undeveloped. So we have a long way to go. We must do is that we must first identify how we want to be perceived when it comes to tourism. Because if you talk about safari today, immediately your mind goes to Kenya. You know what I mean? If you do business tourism and sports tourism, you go to South Africa. If you want to do archaeological tourism, you probably go to Egypt and go to Morocco and some other areas up north. But if you are coming to Nigeria, what are you coming to see? Who are you? And we believe that we should showcase culture because we're the cultural capital of the world. No one can compete with us when it comes to culture. And you can see our young talents, the Davidos of this world, the Wizkid, the Ashakes of this world. They're going around winning all these Oscars, basically because we're the king of culture, and they have not seen anything yet. We have just begun.
Thank you, sir. Okay, at this point, I will leave the floor for my colleague, Demudia Franca. I know you have some questions for Dr.
Definitely.
in the house.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much, Professor. And Otunba, thank you for the explanation so far. Now, you are a cultural and tourism expert, and for most of us in Africa, we just believe that culture means the way of life of a people. All right, so when you are trying to like merge it with tourism, the connection is not really easily understood. Now, I'd like you to start with this. What is the relationship between culture and then tourism?
Culture is the way of life of the people. Your food, your dance, the way you live, the way you laugh, the way you smile, what you do, what you wear, how you walk, your way of life. And that was the reason why I mentioned earlier that the only time you have an absolute monopoly or advantage is when you take advantage of your culture. There cannot be progressive tourism without you taking advantage of your culture. Without progressive tourism, you can't progress without addressing the issue of your culture. Because if you come all the way to the US or from China, from Asia, to see Africa, and you get to Africa and everybody there is acting like they are New Yorkers, that's cheap imitation. If I want to see New Yorkers, I go to New York City. If I want to see folks, if I want to see Indians, I go to India. So your culture must permeate, must be very visible in your culture, in your tourism. Tourism is a movement of people from point A to point B. When you cross the border, it's called international tourism. When you travel within a particular country that you're from, it's called domestic tourism. So you get a lot of people that come to your country to work. They call them expatriates, for example, in Nigeria. When they come to a resort like this, they get to see Africa. I remember the former head of Coca-Cola was leaving Nigeria. He was brought to the resort. And he said that he has never experienced Africa or Nigeria since he came, because he used to, they take him to the Radisson Blue and the rest of it. There's nothing wrong with those hotels. But when I travel from different parts of the world to a particular country, I like to see the culture of those people, the way they live, what they eat, taste their food. That would be an experience for me. I remember when Julia Murley, the president of Miss World, came to the resort, and we served her the bean cake, what we call akara, here. And she reluctantly took one piece. And when she tasted it, she ended up eating almost 30. And she was excited. Wow, this is very tasty. So you have got to find a way to inject your culture in your tourism. And it is only when you do that, and when people know that, it's only when they come to your country, they can have this particular type of experience. All right? Not to come into your country and have other people's culture dominating your tourism. Now, there's no culture that can stand alone in the world. The almighty United States of America, China, the second biggest economy in the world, must still have a bit of other cultures intermingling with their culture. But what is critical, what is extremely critical, is that they must make sure that their culture is dominant, their culture is upfront, and a certain percentage can now be given to other cultures.
Now, we tend to discover the youth of this nation of, should I say Nigeria now, let me use Africa in general. We tend to discover that they prefer the Western world, even that more than their own culture over here. Now, because I think the misconception about culture, what culture actually is, has not been actually analyzed for them. Now, how do you explain to a growing up child of today that the way of life of the Western world is their own culture and that they should be proud of what they have over here?
No, it's complex. It's complex. That came from tourism. That came from colonization. You know, you're talking about almost 400 years of dominance of a different culture, directing your ways of life and telling you what is good, what is not good. For example, today, you can't be a doctor, you can't be a lawyer, you can't be an engineer, you can't be anything substantial if you don't speak a language that is not yours. If you don't speak English, you cannot be an engineer in Nigeria. You have to speak English. So it's a process. It has changed. It's changing gradually. When we were growing up in the 60s, in the 70s, we were a bit more, I think, we're a bit more focused. And if I remember very correctly, it got to a point in the early 80s where it went very bad. But from what I am seeing presently, is changing very rapidly. There's a lot of focus on Africa now, not just Nigeria. With what is happening with Nollywood being the second largest in the world today, next to Hollywood, bigger than Bollywood, that started almost 200 years ago. We are beginning to regain back our consciousness. When you have a mindset that whatever you are is backward, is colloquial, you have a way of trying to distance yourself from it, not realizing the importance of us polishing who we are and copying the Japanese, Chinese, Asians, Indians, the way they have taken their culture and polished it over the years. Everybody came from a state of nothingness. Nobody came wealthy, no continent, no part of the world. They're medieval days in England, in different parts of the world. But they concertedly focused on polishing that, and they sold it to the entire world. So that is what we have got to do as a people. We've got to begin the process of us realizing there is absolutely nothing wrong with our culture. You know, we're bigger than China, Africans. There are 1.2 billion Africans in the continent and over 1 billion in diaspora. You folks are in Spain. So when you put all that together, you're looking at 2.2 billion plus people. So the big advantage we have is that we've learned the ways of the world. We've learned the technology of the world. We've learned their social media operations. We understand how the entire world works in Spain, in the US, in the Americas, in the Caribbean. All of this now has to be, we've got to bring this back and polish it and transform it into a mega force. The whole of England, I'm sure you all know that, the whole of England that had gone out to colonize a greater percentage, almost 65% of the continent of Africa. It's just 136,000 square kilometers of area. When they did that, there were less than 20 million people. Today, there are 41 million people. And these folks have taken what their culture is and they've made it good, make you feel that is the best way. There's nothing wrong with that. The world is a place where you must market yourself. And if you don't market yourself well, other people will take advantage of your demarketing of yourself. So the process of proper marketing of who you are and taking that culture and polishing it and repositioning it in the world and watch people take it to the next level with you. As we buy in the Western way of life, we have to present for them our own way of life for them to buy, just like we're doing in music now, like we're doing in movies now. We have to keep on working at it. And we, like I said earlier, we're lucky to have over 1 billion people of African descent. There are 7 continents in the world. It is only Africans that have over 1 billion people of their own living in different parts of the world. We're the only ones because of slave trade, okay? But that has to be transformed now into an advantage. That lemon referred to as slave trade has to be squeezed. You add a bit of water and sugar, transform it to lemonade, and give it for the entire world to drink and be refreshed. So I believe very strongly that yes, it will change, and it's changing. It's a process, it's an evolution. It took a concerted effort to take it away from us for over 400 years. It will require a concerted effort for us to put it back into our system, into our mindset, into our psyche. And until we put it back into our psyche, we will be devaluing the world. There are 8.1 billion people on Earth today. We have a role to play. If we're the second largest continent, if you have the second largest continent unproductive and not functioning well or right, we're doing the world a disservice because they need the resources in the continent of Africa. Nobody can harvest Africa like Africans. So we have got to find a way to make sure that we find ourselves, take advantage of what we have, 30.2 million square kilometers of area. We have 12 million square miles. If you leave your house untended to in Africa, a tree will grow on it. Our atmosphere is fucked up. So these are things we need to think about and we need to focus on. And when we focus on that, we will then make it better for the world. Because right now, we need to pull our weight as Africans. We have disconnected from the continent, especially the Africans in diaspora. They are not connected to the continent of Africa. Until they are fully connected, There's no continent, there's no part of the world that did not have to rely on their diaspora to survive. None. People in diaspora, I mentioned England a minute ago, they are just 136,000 square kilometers of area out of 4 countries in the United Kingdom. And these folks traveled all around the world to acquire from the world and brought it back to England. And that's what we're talking about, that we have to do as a people. We have to begin that process. The process of us, I was in the diaspora. I grew up in the US from a tender age of 16. But I've been back for over 40 years and adding value. I think we've created jobs for over 1 million people. If I had stayed in diaspora, that would not have happened. That's what we have got to do as a people. We need to now find a way to not disconnect from the continent of Africa. We need to, in as much as we can, create what the world can patronize. What the world can patronize. We need to make sure that we present things to the world that the world can patronize in a continent.
Okay, thank you, Otunba, Wanle Akinboboye. It's been a wonderful time having you. We are going to go for a break, and when we return, we'll be looking at some of the questions we actually reserved for you. It's still culture and tourism in Africa and the Afro-Caribbean. My name is H.J. Oba with my colleague here, Demedia Franca. Now we're going on break. When we return, we continue this discussion.
Clevenard in Diaspora Television is an internet online TV service. What sets us apart is a unique combination of hit African content, first and exclusive international free movies, series, musics, news, events, documentaries, tourism, teleshopping shows, youth TV programs, and live interviews. Clevenard Diaspora Television is available throughout sub-Saharan Africa and to the diaspora markets worldwide. Take your entertainment with you wherever you go. Watch on your smartphone, tablet, laptop, smart TV, depending on your device. Watch free movies with Clevenard Movies Television. Stop searching for free movies websites and watch Clevenard Movies Television. Watch your favorite African shows anywhere at any time. Don't forget to check out our top 5 TV channels created to get you informed. TV1, Clevenard in Diaspora Television. TV2, Clevenard Youth Television. TV3, Clevenard Movies Television. TV4, Clevenard Teleshopping Television. TV5, Clevenard Tourism Television. To start watching, sign up at www.clevenard.com and follow the easy steps. Once you're done, log into the Clevenard website or app on your device, click on any one of our 5 TV channels, and hit play. We will be very satisfied and happy to welcome you to our team as one of our new business partners. Contact info@clevenard.com +34 631 279811. Website www.clevenard.com.
Welcome back, viewers. It's still culture and tourism in Africa and the Afro-Caribbean on Clevenard TV. My name is AJ Obama. I have my colleague with me this evening, co-anchoring this program, Demedia Franca. And this night we have a special guest by name Otunba, Dr. Wanle Akinboboye. He is the founder of Lakapen Tropicana Beach Resort. So he's our guest tonight and be taking us through on the industry of culture and tourism. And as we continue, we'll be looking at how we can benefit from this industry in Nigeria, looking at Nigeria, using Nigeria as a case study because he's in Nigeria and he has actually delved into this industry and is doing exceptionally well. In fact, the biggest in Africa. So he has a lot of experience and he has got a lot of answers to give us. Doctor, before we proceed, I would like to ask you this question. I'm aware that there's an ongoing program you are packaging, which is also part of culture, which is called a PADA, we'll say awards and the Queen of Africa. That is a beauty pageant. So I would like you to, because of our time now, I would like you to throw some light on that program. What is that about?
You know, the first thing we did in 2000 is to create a movement called Motherland Beckons, to create a platform for people of African descent in diaspora to be able to find a platform to step on, to enter the continent of Africa and be part of the production and productivity level of Africa. So Motherland Beckons is a concerted effort to make sure that Africans in diaspora can return back to the continent and be part of the development of the continent. Part of the activities of Motherland Beckons is what we call a Bada Carnival. And this is hoisted in Antigua and Barbuda, where we hope to be replicating an African themed resort there. That's from there, people can then cross over. And now we have a deep sea port not too far from us. We are moving them from slave ships to cruise ships, from slave ships to luxurious airliners, back to the continent every year for what we call Ipada Carnival. Ipada in Yoruba means the return carnival. So we're partnering with associates in the Caribbean, in all the 36 islands in the Caribbean, bringing all the carnivals in the Caribbean back to the continent of Africa, bringing the carnival from the Americas, from Brazil, from Puerto Rico, back to Africa, bringing the carnivals and the dance from Notting Hill Carnival, from other carnivals in Europe and Africa that is African descent, and it's going to be on the beach. We have a total of 40 kilometers of area where we're doing this. So IPAD will give everybody an opportunity to connect with the internet, because all the carnivals in Nigeria, in all the 55 African countries, are going to be part of that carnival, bringing their own little carnival. So that's what Ipada Carnival is about, a return. We're not asking them to just return and stay in a hotel. We're asking them to return and come and discover themselves, see the culture of the other African people, those in the Caribbean, those in the Americas, those in the United States of America, those in Europe. We're going to all be converging on an annual basis with Ipada Carnival. Now, during the Ipada Carnival, there is Oshe Awards. Oshe Award means we thank you. It's an award given to that special Nigerian African from anywhere in the world. And that special African will get a total of 20 in one day, with 21 first-class kings from North Africa, South, East, West, Center, just to say we thank you for making Africa proud. And the award will be given to just one individual. Now, the caliber of people will be the caliber of people like Mandela, like Pelé of Brazil, in Blessed, will be like Muhammad Ali. But we want to give the awards now to Africans that are alive for now. And that is Oshe Awards. And the award is about 21 karat gold. So it's a major award for that African, where we are thanking him for making Africa proud. Now, the next one is called the Queen of Africa. It's called, the O'Shea Award will also get um, like between 10 to 15 acres of land throughout different parts of Africa. So it might end up getting almost 50 acres because different African countries are going to donate land. So they can build a structure of their vocation. If, for example, let's assume that Usain Bolt, for example, if we pick a Usain Bolt as the O'Shea Award recipient for this, can decide to build in all these different countries sports academy, so that we can begin. And next year we pick another awardee. Nefertiti, in Egyptian language, it means the beautiful woman has come. We decided this beauty pageant is going to be strictly for the most beautiful African woman in the world. The most beautiful African woman in the world. So people will contest from all the 55 African countries. They will contest from those that are in Europe, those that are in the Americas, in the USA. As long as you're an African and you have the color of an African and you're an African, you enter there. It's strictly for the most beautiful African woman in the world. It's called the Nefertiti Queen of Africa. The Queen of Africa, we have a parcel of land in every African country. And we will encourage the Queen also to participate in business opportunities all over Africa so that companies can connect. For example, La Campagne can decide to make her a director. Another organization in Lagos can make her a director because she'll be the most important woman in the world as the most beautiful queen of Africa in the world. So that will go on. Then we have the Africa International Music Festival during this Ipada, where we're taking artists from all the 55 African countries. As a matter of fact, that one is the sixth edition this year. We started 6 years ago. We're artists from all the 55 African, so it's sort of like African Music Encyclopedia, where people can come and hear music from North Africa, East, West, Central Africa, and every part of Africa. And then the sixth region of Africa, which is Africans in diaspora. So there'll be artists that'll come from the Caribbean, that'll come from the US. So we have that all going on during this period. So you have M Festival, you have O'Shea Awards, you have the Pada Carnival itself, you have food festivals that'll be going on. We'll have like about 2-3 miles of African food on the beach where you can experience cuisine from the Caribbean, from different parts of Africa. It's a to begin a process of return that we refer to as Ipada. And this will be on an annual basis, starting from this year.
Okay, sir. Our time is running very fast, but I want to know what you are saying now. Is it in connection with the signing of the MOU with the Ondo State, or is it a different project entirely?
Yes, this one is a totally different project. The Ondo State signing of an agreement is transformation of almost 45 kilometers of beachfront and defining that as a tourism zone. We got the CFO recently for us to replicate La Campagne there. So we're going to be bringing other hoteliers, other investors, because it will be the first ever beachfront sort of like safari that you find, because from Lagos on a quad bike or on a jet ski, or if you're using a four-wheel drive on the beach, it takes you about 1 hour, 1.5 hours. We also have horseback riding. If you like to horseback ride all the way 40 kilometers on the beach, on that beach safari we are creating, it's available. If you want to hike, for those that want to do hiking on the beach, I walk 10, 20, 25 kilometers on the beach regularly. So that basically is the idea of that whole stretch. And then we're having floodlights lining the entire beachfront. We're having what you call solar cameras. We have a central monitoring zone where we monitor everything happening on the beach, so that if you want to go walk on the beach at 2, 3, 4 a.m. in the morning, you are safe. And then we have different rest areas. The rest areas we have created is going to be weaved around our food. So we'll have fried plantain redodo rest area. When you get there, all you have is the best of fried plantain and fish and the rest. We have the amala rest area, which is our food, and different along the line, so that, and there will be signs that will tell you that the next rest area will have this particular delicacy, so you can salivate before you get to that location. So that is a totally different bug, and that's going to form part of the Ikpada, because we want that when we tell Africans in diaspora to return, we want to make sure that they have something to return to. Business opportunities, entertainment. So we're going to be building holiday homes for Africans in diaspora that like to be part of this beach safari that is from all over, from Lagos all the way to Cross Ogun State to Ondo State, and it will be the first interstate beach safari of that nature anywhere in the world, so that you can go from Lagos on the beach all the way to Ogun State, and if you're not tired, you go all the way to Lagos State. And as you get to every particular stop, you have something to eat. There's a place for you to sleep. You can then do kayak. You can go scuba diving if you like. You can do what you call it, paragliding. So we'll have all those there, and then there'll be hotels, different levels, 2, 3, 4, 5-star hotels, so that throughout that, we're taking advantage of, I mentioned to you earlier that we have 853 kilometers of beachfront in Nigeria, cutting across 6 states. So almost 200 or 250 kilometers of that is in Ondo, Ogun, and Lagos State. So we're working with those 3 states. That was the MOU and the CFO that was signed and delivered last 2 days ago, or yesterday, actually, 2 days ago. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. What you have just said is, you've given us a very explicit view on your strides on tourism in Nigeria. But my concern now, before we go, I'd like to ask this very question, is that Nigeria has a lot of tourist attractions with what you are doing at the moment. And on the other hand, when you look at our revenue in terms of these vast tourist attractions, they are not reflecting. It's not reflecting. So we're not leveraging on these tourism attractions to increase our revenue as a nation. And with what you've said so far, I think it is important that we put out more education out there for people to know that they can actually fall back on our own tourism attractions, because what they can get elsewhere, maybe like in South Africa or in Kenya, we also have our own. We have to really showcase our culture to the world. We have to embrace what we have, which is exactly what you're doing. So, what would be your advice in this case? How do we leverage on these tourism attractions as a people, as a nation?
I think the biggest problem, the biggest undoing for us is that we're just too blessed and we take that blessing for granted. Like you've said, the attractions are everywhere. But attraction does not bring money. Attraction does not help you develop. Attractions are just attractions. You will not begin to make money from attractions until you have transformed those attractions to a destination. If you have a fantastic attraction, let's take the Olumo Rock, or let's take the Zuma Rock, for example. It's a humongous attraction. Or a rock that have a face, that have a nose, that you can make a lot of noise about it. And if a John Doe from somewhere in Florida decides, or an anthropologist decided that I'd like to come and see this strange rock, and he has like $5,000-$10,000 in his pocket because he wants to at the same time enjoy himself. It's a vacation for him. He gets to that attraction, and then he wants to eat. There's nowhere to eat. He wants to drink. There's nothing to drink. He's tired. He wants to sleep. Nowhere to sleep. He's going to keep the $10,000 in his pocket and fly back. So yes, the attraction has attracted him. But the owner of that attraction, if you have not transformed that attraction to a destination, you're wasting your time. Nothing will happen. If you then weave around Olumo Rock, an Olumo Rock resort, for example. So they land, the first thing they do, they check into their hotel. Before they even go to the attraction they've come for, you've shown them 3, 4, 5 things they've paid for. You take them to where they will eat, where they will drink, where they will dance, where they will gamble, for those of them that like to gamble. Or you take them to where they will go and see Abuja, do an Abuja tour and come back. You have weaved something around that attraction. You have transformed that attraction to a destination. So to answer your question, what we are doing is we are marketing attractions, not marketing destinations. Until we transform an attraction to a destination, it does not bring you money. Now, we have 3 attractions at the resort. We have the Atlantic Ocean, we have the lagoon, we have the forest. So we weave the resort around these 3 attractions. Now we have most of our combers, cleaners, they've built their houses today because of the economic trickle-down effect that comes from a minister coming to stay here, a governor coming to stay here, or a head of state or coming to stay here, ambassadors from different parts of the world. There are people that will come and see a young boy in the village and take them abroad and sponsor them to a university. The fishermen that used to look for where to sell their fish, they have a place here at the resort to sell their fish. You find that most security operatives in the resort, they built their houses, they have their cars, because when you're working in an environment like this, you don't have to pay for transport, you don't have to pay for accommodation. So whatever you earn is what you keep. So it's easy for you to get what you need. And so if you look at that, when we came into this environment, they have just 4 concrete houses. But today they have over 4,000. Now that is what a destination does to an environment. Until you transform an attraction to a destination, all of these things would not have happened. If we had not transformed the attractions we see here into a destination, you will not have all the things I've just mentioned now. You will have a wonderful attraction. Come here, we'll take pictures of it and look at it. We have a fantastic lagoon. You have an Atlantic Ocean. You have a a big forest, lovely white forest, because there is sand, white sand forest. You have all of that, but it's not going to transform into what will add any value to your GDP. And that is what we are concerned about. So there must be a concerted effort to transform these attractions to a destination.
Okay, thank you, sir. Your time is what I'm looking at now, and I don't know if Franca is still there, but I think the network is really giving some issues over there. But then I want to just ask you, what would be your recommendations on branding Nigerian tourism for the world market? What would be your recommendation, your advice before you go? I think this is one of the last questions we're going to entertain because of our time now.
When you say one of the last, it means that's not the last.
Almost the last. Let's make it the last one. We'll have another time.
Don't say one of. So that's the last question. It's very simple, very straightforward. Like I said to you earlier, you take advantage of your advantage. What's the advantage we have as Nigerians? Culture. We should focus on cultural tourism, period. Nothing but that. Cultural tourism. Cultural tourism. And let's be developing it. When you talk about cultural tourism, then you bring in the music, the movies, you bring in the dance, you bring in the, you bring in all the other ecosystem of culture into tourism. And let's be the cultural capital of the world. Can you imagine you going to China? The people that love to copy, they take our kente, our ashoke now, they transform it and they are making a lot of money from it. But what they cannot do is they cannot in any way or form take King Sunny Ade's song now and say they want to replicate it. Is it possible? Can you imagine a Chinese person trying to dance like Davido? So I believe strongly. Oh, you're laughing. So if you focus, it'd be very funny. I like to, maybe we should try that and see what happens. So I think that is what we have to do until we focus on that, and let them know that if you want to see African culture, Zulu has culture. People in Southern Africa, and the biggest culture they have there is Zulu. If you go to Kenya, you have the Maasai. But if you go to Ile-Ife, you have Modakeke next to it. If you go to Ishekiri, you have the Robo next to it. If you go to Ibadan, you have different cultures fighting within that enclave. You'll be shocked. The cultural diversity that we have is a humongous touristic capital that we should have taken advantage of long time ago. But I'm glad that our musicians are beginning to take advantage of it. And you can look at the kind of resources they are getting, and you can see how difficult it is for so many people to copy them. Because when they come up with ideas and concepts that comes from their culture and they polish and cosmopolitize it, it puts them at a level that most people cannot compete with.
Thank you so much. It's been a wonderful time. We really appreciate your time. Though at the beginning we had some network glitches that actually delayed our transmission. And I believe in the near future we'll be able to have you again. We cannot finish the issue of tourism at a setting. Is a huge industry that has a lot of nitty-gritties, and you've been able to dissect some of the critical facts about tourism and culture, and because you are versed in this industry, and you've actually laid a very strong foundation. Being the founder of Lakapen Tropicana Beach Resorts is a very popular one and one of the biggest in Africa. So it's something to take home. It's something to take home, and we really want to appreciate you for your time this evening, sir. And we look forward to seeing you again on this platform to look at the progress of this campaign that you have and the project at hand, as you have explained including the MOU you are signing recently with the government on expanding the tourism and culture industry in Nigeria, which is a landmark experience. So that is very remarkable, and kudos to you, sir. We really appreciate you. For the viewers, it's been Culture and Tourism on Cligna TV, and it's on patterns of culture and tourism. That's our topic today. And we have Otunba, Dr. Wanle Akinboboye. He's a Nigerian culture and tourism icon, and he owns the world's first African themed beach, forest, and river resort, popularly known as La Campagne Tropicana Beach Resort. So that's how much we can take this night. And it's still Cleveland, and our business here is to showcase Africans, to unite Africans, highlight them, and really celebrate what they are doing and their achievements, just like we're doing today. So thank you, and thank you very much, sir. And for our viewers, I would like to say thank you for the time. Thank you, sir, for coming. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Okay, so it is bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.
It's still AJ on Cleveland TV's Culture and Tourism. Thank you for watching. And I hope next time we'll return with this same subject and take it even further and see the progress of us, more especially on the new project that you have, sir. We would like to know how far you've gone, and also take that opportunity to educate more Africans, more especially those who live in Nigeria, on what you are doing and what La Campagne Tropicana Beach Resort is doing in Africa. Thank you for having you.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you very much, Prof. Appreciate it. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you. For now, it is bye-bye from this end. Until next time.